It's been a wild stretch in the NBA rumor mill. Reports surfaced that Kawhi Leonard and the LA Clippers may have bent the rules with a so-called sponsorship deal tied to a tree planting company that had direct connections to the team. The arrangement allegedly allowed Leonard to collect money off the books, boosting his overall pay without touching the salary cap. The twist? It looks like his camp was exploring similar side door deals back in 2019 during his free agency after winning a title with the Toronto Raptors. Raptors fans remember that summer vividly. The endless questions about whether Kawhi would stay, the citywide campaigns, private jet tracking, and hope that he'd run it back with the championship roster. Had Leonard chosen to stick around, Toronto would have been in prime position to defend its crown and possibly repeat as champions. Of course, the pandemic hit soon after, the season shifted to the bubble, and everything changed. Ultimately, Kawhi signed with the Clippers to return to California, a move most fans chalked up to him simply wanting to be closer to home. But the latest information paints a more complicated picture, one that has a lot to do with money. What some are calling Tree Plant Gate might actually trace its roots to Leonard's negotiations with Toronto in 2019. At that time, Leonard's uncle and advisor, Dennis Robertson, was pushing for additional benefits that went far beyond a standard contract. Among the reported requests were things Toronto couldn't realistically offer, like ownership shares in the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that also owned MLSE, which controls the Raptors. That was a non-starter. Another big ask was a blockbuster move for Paul George, which didn't happen in Toronto but famously materialized in Los Angeles as soon as Kawhi signed there. The demands didn't stop there. According to reporting, Leonard's camp wanted off-the-books perks, essentially. No-show sponsorships and investment opportunities that would funnel millions without requiring appearances, commercials, or standard promotional work. Robertson was said to be seeking an extra $10 million in this fashion, purely as guaranteed income. Toronto countered by pointing out that Kawhi, as a finals MVP and league superstar, would have countless sponsorship deals available if he stayed. But Leonard's camp reportedly shot that down, insisting he didn't want to participate in those kinds of obligations. In the end, MLSE held its ground. They weren't willing to cross lines with shady financial arrangements, and Leonard chose Los Angeles, where he ultimately got the kind of setup his camp had been asking for. For Raptors fans, it adds a new layer to the quote-unquote what-if game. Not just about running it back, but about what really pushed Kawhi to leave. On the surface, it might just sound like bold negotiating, but asking for no-show sponsorship crosses into dangerous territory. Why? Because it's considered a way of skirting the salary cap. The cap is in place to create balance between teams so players and franchises can't simply spend without restriction. But when athletes feel limited by those rules, some camps look for creative loopholes to squeeze out extra money. The issue becomes obvious when a player wants the financial benefits of endorsements without actually doing the work those deals normally require. Legitimate sponsorships are a cornerstone of professional sports. A company invests in a player's brand, their image, influence, and marketability in exchange for ads, commercials, appearances, or promotional content. It's a business partnership that benefits both sides. The athlete gets paid, and the brand gets visibility. When those expectations vanish, and the money flows without the athlete lifting a finger, it isn't really a sponsorship anymore. It's essentially extra salary disguised as marketing money designed to bypass league rules. We've seen similar controversies before. For example, in the WNBA, the Las Vegas Aces drew headlines for allegedly arranging off-the-books payments to their players through sponsorship-style deals. Because the league's salary cap is strict and relatively low, those types of arrangements would have given the Aces an unfair advantage in retaining talent. It sparked an investigation, and while there wasn't an immediate public resolution, the situation highlighted how sensitive leagues are to anything that looks like circumventing financial restrictions. The difficulty is in proving intent. All it takes is one staged appearance, a photo op, a token commercial shoot, to make it appear like an endorsement is real, even if everyone knows it's mostly just a funnel for extra cash. That gray area makes enforcement complicated, and players' agents are savvy enough to cover their tracks. For Kawhi Leonard, all he'd need to do is stand next to a tree with a smile, and suddenly the arrangement looks legitimate on paper. This context sheds light on what really may have driven Leonard's departure from Toronto. Fans often assumed it was about going home to California or building a championship contender elsewhere, but the evidence suggests it was about securing the financial extras that the Raptors, to their credit, refused to provide. The Raptors front office drew a line, choosing not to sacrifice organizational integrity for one player, even a Finals MVP. From a fan's perspective, the debate will always linger. Some are going to say Toronto should have done whatever it took to keep Leonard, even bending the rules. Others see the team's refusal as a show of principle, refusing to cross into shady territory that could have set a dangerous precedent. Either way, the story now feels less like a clean exit and more like a reminder of how messy superstar negotiations can get when money, power, and legacy collide.